This is yet another game where the team kind of beats themselves, especially in that first quarter. This is yet another game where Tua, while the numbers might be there, Tua gets outplayed by another quarterback. This is yet another game where the defense, and I cannot emphasize this enough. I didn't do it when I was talking about the Baltimore Ravens, but the Baltimore Ravens offensive line is not good. Yes, they had 2 sacks, but they're not that good. But this is yet another time where the defense just, yeah, there was a bad penalty call against Ollie Gordon, like a tripping call. I don't think it was tripping, but Devon Achane is clearly with Tyreek Hill being out. Devon Achane is clearly the best player on this offense, and the conversation surrounding Miami now, they fired their GM. Let me first address that before we move any further. They fired their GM, who happened to be African American, and people are screaming racism. People are saying, "Ew, how did you fire the GM, but Mike McDaniel and Tua is still there?" Or how was the first person that got fired a black man? Let's calm down for a second. Now, you guys know that I am always one to be pro-black. You know what I'm saying? I'm always one to be pro-black when it comes to coaches, when it comes to GMs. I want everyone of color to succeed in whatever role they are in. And I want African Americans and people of color to have more prominent roles in these sports teams. I've been very open about that, whether it comes to coaching, whether it comes to GM, whether it comes to owner. I want representation in these rooms. And I've been very open in saying that I feel like when African Americans are given opportunities like this, given opportunities to be head coaches, given opportunities to be GMs, they're on teams where there's not much hope. There's not much ability to show off how good or how bad you are because it's not a good team. So you're already playing behind the 8 ball. So I want better for my people. With that being said, however, I completely understand and completely agree with the GM having to go. Did you know that I think the Miami Dolphins have the longest streak of not winning a playoff game in the NFL? This GM has been here for God knows how long, for a while. And the team has always had a ceiling. And that ceiling is never high. Even the year where Tua had the year that got Tua paid, which, shout out to Cam Newton, I didn't realize Tua got paid when he was hurt, so they did the right thing while he was hurt. Did you know that the year that Tua broke all those, records and had that offensive explosion, they still didn't win a game in the playoffs? I think that there is going to be a lot of people that are fired at the end of this season when we talk about the Miami Dolphins. I think there's a lot of people that's going to be fired. I think there's a lot of people that's going to be moved at the end of this season. One of those people is the GM for the Miami Dolphins. He had to go. While I am always pro-black, shout out to Issa Rae, I'm rooting for everyone black. I also understand when you're put in these positions and you're given ample opportunity to succeed and you don't, then it's time to go. That is when it's time to you have to get it moving. You have to go because we're trying to win, and you are not doing your part, whether you're African American or not, person of color or not. You got to go. So I don't spell racism there. I just think he was the first domino of a domino that was automatically always going to fall either now or the end of this year. Which brings me to Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. I wrestle with this a little bit because I'm not as low on Mike McDaniel as a lot of people. Remember, Mike McDaniel, he orchestrated one of the best offenses, at least for a singular year. He was the Miami Dolphins were one of the best offenses we've ever seen when he first arrived. Remember, Miami put up 70 points against the Denver Broncos. I do agree, and I've said this before on this podcast, and I'll say it again. I do agree that there are some people that are better off as coordinators than head coaches, and I think Mike McDaniel might be one of them. I'm never going to sit here and act like he doesn't know football. I'm never going to sit here and act like he's not good at his job, but what I will say is maybe he's better as a coordinator, which has proven to be the case at this point, than the head coach. So I've never in my years of life have seen a demotion from head coach to coordinator on the same team. So because of that, I don't think Mike McDaniel is going to be the head coach of this team starting next year. But I understand completely. There's no point of firing him now and starting at there's no head coaches that's going to be available. You give them a whole off season, give them a whole head start. No, because what you're not doing, because obviously the GM just got fired. You need to get a new GM. You need to get a new head coach. Let's just figure this is not something that you want to do in season. No. So I get why every report that you hear says Mike McDaniels is going to remain the head coach until the end of the season. Does that mean he's going to get – mostly when you hear verbiage like that, when you hear wording like that, he is going to remain at least until the end of the season. That means that 9 times out of 10, once that season's over, he's out of here. Now, I'm not putting all of the issues on Mike McDaniels, but I do think that also, especially in football, you hear the term leader of men a lot. You hear the term someone that commands respect in the locker room. At least from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like this team really respects Mike McDaniel as much as you would want them to, as much as you would hope they do. It kind of feels like he's lost a lot, or at least that there's a disconnect with him. And again, I always talk about his quirkiness and what he does. That's cool when you're winning, but when you're losing, that rubs people the wrong way. Nobody wants to hear all that. Nobody wants to see that. They want a stoic presence, and that's not what Mike McDaniel was at all. Now, I'm not saying his mannerisms is why they're losing. I'm not saying that his personality is why they're losing, but if you lost the locker, if you don't command respect in the locker room, or I'll say, if the locker room doesn't respect you, there's absolutely no way you can be the head coach. Because what happens is then they look at assistant coaches. Then they look at, coordinators. And then that means you're essentially, and no fault to you, but that means that you're essentially being undermined. That's never going to succeed, ever. So I think Mike McDaniel's tenure has to be over. Whether I believe he's a good coach / coordinator or not, it doesn't seem like the locker room respects him, and he has to go. Which brings me, lastly, to Tua Tagovailoa. We know that his teammates don't respect him. We learned that by information that he chose to tell us. You calling players only meetings and players not showing up / showing up late is the ultimate sign that whoever you're trying to connect with does not respect you. Because this isn't mandatory. That's what, just like OTAs, player only meetings are not mandatory. It just shows that the players respect whoever's calling this meeting. And the fact that you have players on your own team that, I cannot stress enough, you, to a Tagovailoa, decided to tell the world, now you're having situations where the world knows that your own teammates don't respect you. I've always said this, and obviously I know I've never played in the NFL. I played football 1 year. I know I'm not an expert when it comes to playing football. But with me saying it, I've also heard former players say it. Just because you make the most money on the team doesn't mean you deserve a C, that captain patch on your chest. That doesn't necessarily mean that teams agree with me, but you have to earn. Most cases, in all cases, you should earn that captain patch. It feels like Tua earned that patch only because he was the highest paid player on that team and he was the quarterback. Yes, I agree that the quarterback, you would hope that the quarterback is the captain, the leader of the team, seeing as though he's the most important position, but that's not always the case. I think people look at that Tua captain patch and it's just like, you're not a captain, bro. You only got that because you have a good relationship with the coaches, I guess, and they paid you as much as they paid you. But in the same breath, you're one of the main reasons why we lose week after week after week after week after week. Which brings this full circle. I think Tua has to go. I think they just have to tear it down. And it seems like that's what they're, with the firing of the GM and it looks like that's what they're headed towards. But the seeds that you planted, the roots are dead. There's no solid foundation to sprout anything of use from this team. You trade away your best players. Remember, they traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick just to bring him back for less. Like, you traded him, and you traded him for essentially your best defensive player. Shocker, your defense sucks. All your best players that you've had are gone. Tyreek Hill, with his age, he's probably not going to be there next year. There's no solid Jalen Waddle. You got to start trading off pieces. Because, again, there's no fruitful ground right now that you can there's no seeds that you can plant that's, hey, this is no. So I think that a full teardown has to happen. And I think it will happen. And we're seeing them firing the GM. You're seeing it. I'm not saying that this is one of the worst teams, or that's a lie. This is one of the worst. I'm not saying this is the worst team in the NFL. But I will say that this is one of the worst situations in the NFL. Because not only do you know that you're probably getting rid of the head coach, now you have to be the GM, whoever GM you're going to hire, has to or gets bestowed the task of trying to trade one of the worst contracts in NFL history into a to a team. Now, they will do it. I mean, there's teams that obviously need a quarterback, but are those teams okay with paying that price for a quarterback that ceiling clearly isn't Super Bowl? Shit, I don't even know if the ceiling's playoffs at this point. So, you're also going to get a quarterback that may or may not tell the locker room business. Just saying. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.